Hey everybody, and welcome back to Torah on Tap. The last time that we met was September 23rd. Can you imagine that? It's November 4th tonight. It's a long time. Hope all of you had a meaningful Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. But before we begin, I just want to dedicate tonight's class to Natanel Garamani, who was executed today, a 20-year-old boy in Iran for self-defense about 6 months ago. He was at a gym where 7 Muslims accosted him at the gym. One of them owed him money, pulled out a knife at him, and in self-defense, he pushed one of the guys away, and that guy tripped and fell and hit his head, and it was a Muslim man who died. And in Iran, self-defense is not a defense, apparently, for killing a Muslim. It's illegal for any non-Muslim to kill another Muslim. And he was executed today. There were other countries, including the United States, Germany, Russia, that are all trying to put political pressure on saving his life. But unfortunately today they executed him. I believe it was a public hanging. His neshama should have an aliyah from all of our actions, all of our thoughts, all of our positive actions, from all the Torah tonight and all the things that we do. We should have him in mind. Okay. We have a nice little stretch now before the next break, which is about Hanukkah and Christmas and New Year's. There are sheets. Just take that. If you see a sheet, it's free. Now, holding your sheet, you don't deserve to have a sheet. All right. We have like a nice little run. Jessica was so kind enough to put together a schedule that shows the schedule for the next 3 weeks. And God willing, we're going to finish up the elements in the next couple of weeks. And then after that, we're going to do manifestation based on Jewish sources and how to manifest the world that we want to see in the future. Bezrat Hashem. We'll do that for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then I'm not sure what we're going to do after that. But for now, I just want to remind those of I want to remind you I'd like to remind the group that there is a trip to Costa Rica that is still might be happening, but tomorrow is like the official deadline, and if not, then I'm gonna have to figure out what we're doing next. There is a consideration of doing a volunteer trip at the end of December in Israel. Israel is desperate for volunteers, especially in the areas in the south, which are the farmlands that are just being empty. If you were on our trip to Israel last this November, then you remember that we went to a farm. There's hundreds of farms like that where there are no workers, no men, nothing happening, empty farms, fruit, everything's just dying in the north and the south. So they're desperately looking for people to come in and volunteer. I think the volunteering would require you to volunteer anywhere between 4 hours a day, and then you're free to do whatever you want, but it's a daily thing for minimum for a week. And Bezrat Hashem, I'll know more about those details hopefully tomorrow. Okay, so what we've spoken up until now in this particular series is about the 4 elements and how we see the 4 elements throughout all of the Sefer Bereshit. And the specific main characters of Bereshit, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, all personify these 4 elements and others as well. We spoke about how we saw it actually in the storyline as well. We just weren't paying close attention. And now what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about the elements as personality types. In the last 50, 60 years, there's been all kinds of interesting psychological discoveries about personality types. And there's some that are more famous, some that are less famous, but just be mindful that the elements as a personality type is actually an ancient Jewish structure of thinking about personalities. So this is not just a Myers-Briggs test or some of the other ones. This is rooted in ancient Jewish sources, and it's kind of cool to know that there's a personality system that gets you to think about personality types in a way that is meaningful for someone living today in 2024. But like all personality types, each one carries with it strengths and weaknesses. And you're all familiar with that. Any character trait to any one extreme is considered bad. There is no character trait that polarizes on one pole to the other pole that is a healthy character trait. Therefore, the character traits that we're always looking for is one of balance. That's what we're always looking for. Now, there's we started the Torah reading again, and last week was Parshat Noach, and this week's Parshat Lech Lecha. These are some of my favorite Parshiyot. All Bereshit is my favorite stories, and as you grow older, you're familiar with some of these stories, but hopefully you're each spending some time on trying to find some kind of commentary, some new lens that allows you to open up the story and see it a little bit deeper. Now, I always had a question that bothered me. I never had, for years, I've never found a really good answer until recently. Right? We know that the Torah begins with Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz. God starts the world, Bereshit bara, in the beginning, God creates time. Aretz, Shamayim and Aretz, right? Shamayim is a conjugation of Eish and Mayim, fire and water, and so on and so forth. And then the pasuk says, "V'ruach Elokim merachepet al pnei hamayim," and the Spirit of God is hovering on the water. But there's zero mention anywhere in the Genesis of God creating water. It's kind of like curious. Did that bother anybody else here? Talk about the creation of all kinds of things, but no creation of water, and the pasuk makes it sound ki'ilu as if the water was always there. Drove me crazy. So, what is water? Fine. So the Zohar asks this question, and I just saw the answer 2 days ago. And the Zohar says that the Ruach Elokim, the Mayim, represents desire. Desire.
What, not fire?
What? Fire is passion. It's different. Anyway, it represents a desire. We know that water represents not the desire to want to create, specifically. Procreation, purvu, is reflected in water. Okay, and therefore that pasuk where it ends with God's Spirit hovering on the water is a reflection of God wanting to create a world. That is not just an element; it is also an expression of some kind of a need, almost on His part, and that's why He's in the water, so to speak. All life-giving things are somehow tied into water, right? There's water is always mayim chaim. There's always a connection there, always. So therefore, the pasuk speaks about mayim, and there's water. Now it's interesting that the beginning of the Parsha right away talks about water as far as desire goes, and then Parsha Noach, what's Parsha Noach about? The deluge, right? What is that? Water, more water. And what kind of water? Water from above, water from below. There's different kinds of water. Like, what does that even mean? That always drove me crazy also. What does that mean there's waters from below? There's different kinds of waters from below. So you're thinking, well, Rabbi, of course waters from below. There's like well water, right? Which is like underneath the earth, not like the oceans, which is kind of on top of the earth. There's like well water, but there's just not that well. This is a different kind of water. This is boiling water underneath the well water. There's other kinds of water. But the Chachamim, also the Zohar, speak about this idea, something called Mei Nukbim and Mei Nukdim, masculine waters and feminine waters. And they're both different. And we could have a whole entire conversation about masculine waters and feminine waters. It's so funny.
I feel like it was very fast. Like you were talking very fast for a second.
Oh, I am talking very fast. I'm trying to move. Because this is like a side point. I'm trying to get to the main point. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
Anyway, if there are any questions about anything I ever say and I'm moving too quickly, please slow me down. I naturally, I want you to know when I watch things, I'm usually at 1.75 or 2.2 speed, and I feel like it affects me because anyway. All right, anyway, speeds up your brain a little bit.
Point, they said that they found water, a sixth ocean or something, water underneath, a whole ocean underneath.
So there is that also. There's actually one of my father-in-law's really close friends is like one of these old geniuses from like this old dark world of like Orthodox Jews that kind of like were involved in like the yeshiva world and then kind of like questioned it and walked away. And one of his pet peeves was the Mabul. And what he did was he mathematically calculated all the waters on the earth, all the mass of the ice, and figured out that if you melted all the ice and you had all the water in the world, you would not have enough water to cover the tallest mountains. And since the pasuk says that all the mountains were covered and it's impossible, therefore the story of Noah cannot be true. That was his conclusion. And it was only a couple of years ago that we found out that there are different kinds of water actually. There's water that's in the core of the earth, that's closer to the mantle, that we're not aware of, that has almost as much the same amount of volume of water as we have on the visible ocean. And with that water, if that water were to kind of like gush up, it would be more than enough water to cover all the mountaintops on the planet. So here's a guy who does a very smart guy who uses his powerful brain to come up with a conclusion only to walk away with a false conclusion, and a conclusion that was very, unfortunately, costly because he walked around with so much doubt, so much pain about being a proud Jew, but not feeling comfortable with the fact that what we tell as far as Jews is true. Anyway, so you have these different waters. Now, it's interesting to note that there are several reasons given as to why the flood occurred. Anyone know any of them? What are some of the reasons why the flood occurred?
Stealing.
Okay, so we call it stealing, right? And what else was there? Adultery. Very good. Yeah, that's the same thing as immorality. Abortions? What?
They would kill the fetus. There's an interpretation of the when it says dam, ba'adam yishafeh.
Yeah.
Dam ba'adam.
Oh yeah.
Dam ba'adam. That a man within a man. Who's that? That's a fetus.
That's a fetus. Okay, it's true. There was. Yes, there is that. Yes, there was.
Yes.
Yes.
About that. He talks about how.
Well, that was very relevant today because it's definitely one of the big issues in the United States of America. And I know that some of you are thinking about Tuesday night. Don't think about it right now. Anyway, so yes, that's definitely one interpretation, not a mainstream popular interpretation, but certainly one of them. So you have stealing, you have adultery, you have murder, you have idol worship, idolatry, and so on and so forth. Right? Now, the word that the Torah uses, chamas, to describe this type of thievery, which is actually tied into murder. Hamas is not just a murder. It comes to the word cham. What's that?
Very brazen.
The brazen, passionate, emotional, kind of like But where does it come from? It starts with the idea that whatever you have is really mine, and there's no possession. Meaning, because really the world is about me. So you have a world that goes through this massive transformation. Avram's father's name was Lemech. And Lemech knew to call his son Noach. Why? What was unique about Noah on the day that he was born? There are two unique physical traits that he exhibited that made him special and stand out. Number one is he was born with a Brit Milah. And when Adam asked God, how will I know the curse of the earth will come to an end? God said when a boy is born with Milah. But there was something else that he had. Anyone else know what he had that was unique? Yeah? What? Noach. How did Lemech know the Noach? Why should you call him Noach? Noach means literally to be menoch, to rest, to comfort. How did he know on the day that he was born that he was going to be the guy that causes all these nice things for the world? So he saw something. Aside from the Brit Milah, he saw something else.
About his hands?
Yes, what about his hands?
They were like fingers like this.
Since Adam's curse was that the earth would produce thorn and thistle, right? It would not be able to produce properly. You would have to go ahead and till the earth. And the way you till the earth is with your hands. They had no tools. So everyone was born with webbed hands. Or a webbed hand. As the Midrash said, that people had webbed hands. Actually, I had a student many years ago who had webbed hands when he was born. And he had surgery to remove them. So he was really fast in the water. And no, he wasn't. Anyway, but my brother had webbed feet. So but he still does. If you want to see it, I can take pictures for you. I'm curious. If you have a fetish in web stuff, I know a guy. Anyway, but I think for $1 he'll definitely make me take a picture. So, yeah, he does. Everyone had a webbed hand, and they would have at least one hand that was webbed, and they would use that hand to kind of till the earth. But Noah was born with normal fingers, right? Normal fingers, not much. So his father saw these unique traits in Noach, and therefore Noach was going to go ahead and change the world. Now, what did he invent? What was he credited for inventing? The plow. Now we know why. He was the only guy on the planet that didn't have a webbed hand. Necessity is the mother of all inventions. I can't do this with my fingers. It's disgusting. I don't have webbed hands. I'm going to go ahead and create the plow. He invents the plow. Plow changes the world. He felt, Noah, that if I get people to have kind of less obligations to work, they have more freedom, that would create a new society where people could go ahead and do more important things like the development of the self. Remember, your profession is the development of you. Your power profession, your secondary profession is what you do at work. But your full-time job is the development of you. That's why you're here. You're here to develop yourselves as individuals. Your secondary thing is how you make money. Okay, Noach believed that and said, you know what? Okay, we're going to go ahead and free the world now from this obligation of go ahead and do this work, and let's see what happens. Instead, what happens is in that world, when you have an abundance of everything without moral clarity, you become super narcissistic. It's only about you, okay? And you end up becoming a civilization that is worthy of getting to a extinction level threat. That's what happens every single time in the Torah. Every story from Bereshit until Lech Lecha, including Lech Lecha even, you have events where societies become so morally depraved that those societies have to be completely wiped out. Now, I could probably get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. There are a couple of places on the planet right now that I could probably point to and say that they've reached a point where if we were living with biblical rules, I have a suspicion that we would deal with them a little bit differently than the world is dealing with them today. There can't come a point where you become so morally broken, where you pass on a rotten philosophy of taking only, of being unwilling to make any concessions, of seeing your opponent as being non-human, not being able to go ahead and open yourself up to the potential of somebody else, right? There's that story, it's a great story of, I forget her last name, Daphne from kibbutz, not Barry, the other one with a B. Oh, it doesn't matter, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, Kitzur is, God bless you and your family. It'll come back to me at the end of the night. She is, on October 2nd, there was supposed to be a basketball game that was set up by this organization in Yerushalayim that brings religious kids to play basketball with non-religious kids. You guys hear the story? And so Daphne finds out about it, and she's like, this is crazy. We're not having any like religious people coming in and playing basketball with our children. It's a Trojan horse. They're going to try to brainwash our kids. She calls up the rabbi. She says, you come to our kibbutz. We're going to go ahead and do a human blockade. We're not going to let you in. This is October 2nd. Okay, the rabbi says, no worries. I'm going to cancel the whole thing. We're not going to come. Don't worry about it. I'm sorry. Cancels the game. Okay, October 7th, she's taken as a hostage. A couple of days later, she's trying to like appeal to the humanity of her captor. She starts talking to him, listen, we're a family. We all come from Abraham. He's like, you're not Jewish. He's like, yeah, no. She's like, I'm Jewish. I'm a Jew. She's like, no, you're not. You're a white colonizer from Europe. There's nothing Jewish about you. She's like, no, I'm Jewish. What are you talking about? My family is Jewish. He's like, you're not a Jew. And he kept saying it over and over. He's like, you're not a Jew. And she starts screaming, no, I am a Jew. He gags her. She can't even say she's a Jew now. And she's stuck in her own head, trying to understand, why does this guy think I'm not Jewish? And then it hits her, there's nothing Jewish about her, right? She's a Zionist. She doesn't even want these religious people, Jews, to come into her own kibbutz that happened 7 days earlier, 5 days earlier. So she's broken by the fact that, and she has this massive realization that, you know what, I have a culture, a religion that I'm proud of, and yet I do nothing to express, and I've taken it for granted. And she said, if I get out, I make a promise, when I come out, I'm going to start building synagogues in kibbutzim that don't have synagogues. And she was one of the first people that was free. Daphne, I forget her last name, right? Changed, massively changed. She walked into, I'm not even sure why did I bring up that story? What was the connection again? What did I say before the story?
Corrupt societies.
Society can get to a point where you're so twisted in thinking that it's only about you, you can't even understand reality and truth. Like, for example, in this country right now, there's two parties. And I'm not saying that one party is better than the other. Both parties are complicated. But one party talks about, rights for a particular kind of group, but yet they can't define what that other group is. And it's like an interesting thing. We talk about how Donald Trump is the greatest threat to democracy, which I don't believe he is. Right? I think he's crazy. I think he's a complicated guy. I think he's nuts. I think he's mamash Esav, like the classical Esav, only thinking about himself, loves gashmiut. The guy wants a fat pork belly steak, whatever it is. That's his world. He wants fancy houses. That's his life. But I do believe at the end of the day, he really wants to do great things for this country. I don't think he's crazy. Now, on the other hand, you have the other side of the people, right, who believe that, no, this is an existential threat. We do everything in our power to go ahead and stop this guy. He's insane, okay? I can understand their perspective as well. My father-in-law, who's a progressive, will not vote in this election because he feels that Kamala Harris is incompetent and that Donald Trump is I can't use the word that he used, but whatever, whole. And so it's like the reason why we are where we are right now is because as a society, I suspect, we're reaching this point of tremendous amount of freedom, tremendous amount of wealth and abundance without moral clarity. And therefore, we don't care about the rules anymore. I'll do whatever I want to do. NBC will go ahead and have a really bad, lame, Saturday Night Live skit with one candidate, ignoring the law which states that you have to. If you're going to do that, you got to vote. They knew what they were doing, right? But it's not about truth anymore. It's about passions. It's about my ratzon, my will versus somebody else's will. Okay, and these are examples of how, from the time of Noah, you see how people were freed from the shackles of work. If they didn't have moral clarity, they sank into the abyss. Their passions is an expression of water, that water element, that water midah gone awry, to the point where the only tikkun is waters from above and waters from below. The waters from above represents the masculine force coming down. The waters from below is a feminine force coming up. And there's supposed to be a balance of the two. One is a giver, one is a receiver. If you live in a world where the giver determines how the receiver is going to receive, that's abusive, that's destructive. There has to be this world where there's a symbiotic relationship of the giving and the taking. And therefore, the only way to go ahead and restore balance to the world is to use the same exact force that the people were using to corrupt the world against them. And interestingly, later on in the Parsha last week, when we walk in from one extreme of water to the other extreme, which is the Tower of Babel, what was unique about the Tower of Babel is that they wanted to go ahead and build a Migdal, Rosh Hashanah. They wanted to build a tower whose peak is in the heavens. Now, if you want to go ahead and build a tower, which its peak reaches heaven, where would you start building? On a mountain. Where do they build? In a valley. And if you were going to start building this massive thing, would you take from the natural stones that are around you and use them to build your structure? Did you know that every single megalithic structure in ancient societies were built with stones? But these people did not want to do that. They said, what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and bake our own bricks. So what do? They create a furnace in a city called Ur-Kasdim. Okay, and that they're using fire as an element, not like the Noah story as an element. They're using water. Over here, they're using fire. And they're going to go ahead and build their own structure by baking their own bricks and using words. And this passion of fire, it reaches a point where people are so consumed with the collectivism of their world that if one person died, who cared? But if a brick fell, that was horrific. Noah is about individuality gone awry. And the end of the parasha is about collectivism gone awry. Two different extremes, right? Fascinating, right? You have the story of Breshit with Adam being created at the end of all the animals, the last of creations. You have Noah going into the ark at the end, even the animals going before him, but when the storm comes to an end, who comes out first? Noah comes out first, and then the animals come in. There's a reversal, a change in the story, a change in the way in which man is supposed to relate to humanity, to the animals, and to the world itself. The world is changing. So the Midrash tells us just as two faces are completely identical to each other, no two faces are identical to each other, so too no two personalities are identical to each other. Each of you are made up of unique features that defines who you are. And if you think about it, we all have everything in common. We all have eyebrows, we all have eyes, we all have noses, we all have lips, we all have chins, we all have cheeks, we all have skin, but yet somehow the variations are so slightly different in each of us that we have our own unique expression of what we are. The same is true with your midot. There are no two people with a midot, with character traits that are exactly the same. And you have to ask yourselves, why is it? Why did God give me this face? And why did God give me this body? And why did He give me this personality trait? It's all part of something. It's there for a reason. But why this? I'm going to argue that this is the best thing that you could possibly have. But Rabbi, wouldn't it be better if I had the Ferrari of stuff? If I had the Ferrari of faces and the Ferrari of bodies and the Ferrari personalities? And the answer is no, not always. Not always. Sometimes what you have is perfect for what you are. Let's review very quickly. Number 2. We spoke about 4 things: nefesh level, how to elevate, personified by, and end of life question. Meaning the avodah of how do I get to clarity as to what I'm supposed to accomplish in this world. So number 1 is body level. That's the earth. Energy, joy, consistency of habit, abundance of mindset. That is the earth mindset. That is how to elevate it. Meaning the opposite of that is what the natural midah is, and you have to elevate it by bringing in energy, joy, consistency of habit, abundance of mindset. Okay, that is personified by Abraham and Sarah. Okay, did you do your work with faith? Did you establish habits of Torah? Meaning, are you setting up true habits? If you are a earth element, if you are an earth nature, right? And we'll go through what that is again at the end. Then this is the way, the tikkun for that. Okay, feeling level, water. What is water? You have to channeled pleasure, deep love, hope. That's Isaac and Rebecca. Did you engage in being fruitful and multiplying? Did you hope for deliverance? The idea of someone who is super strict justice, water, right? Deen, all right, has a very clear boundaries. You can't overcome those boundaries. It's very, very, very clear understanding. Water is always defined by the boundaries that it is in. That is an expression of Yitzchak. Okay, so that is often the antithesis of channeled pleasure. Sometimes just raw pleasure. It's not deep love, it's superficial love. It lacks hope. You're supposed to go ahead and bring those things to that midah. Intellectual level, that's the wind. Okay, intellectual honesty, pursuit of truth, lifelong learning, meaningful communication. That's Yaakov, Leah, and Rachel. Did you engage in discussion of wisdom? Did you understand one matter from another matter? That binah. If you don't have, the wind is it's a beautiful trait, right? But wind is, or air, is an expression of intellectual curiosity. But if it is not balanced, you're all over the place. You become scatterbrained. You're supposed to go ahead and bring that, that balancing force to this particular midah. The will level of fire, humbled and fearless leadership. Yosef, Yehuda, Melech David. Awe of God is your treasure. If you don't have Yiras Shamayim, fire will consume you, because fire is passion. Passionate leaders do amazing things, but fire is always running, and sometimes you butt heads. If you have a boss who is fire, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. Let's break down the elements right now. Okay, number 3 on the bottom, dominant water element. A person with a strong water feeling tendencies is often described as being very emotionally driven. They're highly attuned to the feeling of others and naturally show affection because they are deeply affected by their emotions. They may experience and express the feelings more intensely than others. These individuals thrive in relationships. Outgoing types enjoy being around many people, while more introverted types find fulfillment in personal one-on-one connections. Those with dominant water tendencies are often drawn to roles that allow them to help others, such as teaching young children, working with underprivileged populations, volunteering with charitable causes. However, if you identify or you are a water sign, then the challenges associated with this personality type, if someone with strong water tendencies feels emotionally disconnected, they may seek physical pleasure to fill an inner void, which could put them at risk of addiction. Therefore, it's essential for them to maintain a strong support network to cultivate a deep, meaningful relationship with a friend or a spouse. So we're going to go later, after we go through these different traits again, character traits, you figure out which ones you fit into, and then we'll talk about them in relationships themselves. So if you're a dominant earth element, a person with strong earth body tendencies is typically very down to earth, practical and realistic. The earth element is primarily, first of all of you have all 4 of these elements inside of you, but one is dominant. Okay, no one only is one and only one. You have each of these traits inside of you, but one is more dominant than the other. Okay? The earth element is primarily concerned with survival and meeting basic needs, which when channeled positively creates well-grounded and reliable individual. Such a person is likely to be organized, dependable, and consistent, often excelling in structured environments and preferring to play by the rules. You know that person. They thrive in the roles that require organization, executing plans for perfection. However, the traits can all lead to challenges. Earth-dominated individuals may become stubborn, overly meticulous, resistant to change. If the earth element is overly strong, it may create feelings of insecurity, leading to struggle with jealousy or even depression. In these cases, it's important for the individual to counterbalance these tendencies by engaging in activities that bring joy, love, as discussed previously, through outward actions that uplift their inner state. Okay, dominant air element. We're going to go back. I just want to go through this quickly. A person with strong tendencies in the intellectual communicating level are often described as either very brilliant or very creative, but certainly as ones who live in their head. Okay, they are curious, love to learn new information, and problem solve. Because the thinking level is also connected to communication, a person at this level is typically driven to want to share the knowledge with others. Rabbis are often, air dominant, wind elements, either through their teaching, writing, or creating. They typically become professors, philosophers, writers, poets, and take on the creative pursuits. The danger associated with these tendencies is that if their interests are not being channeled toward important wisdom, they can drift into exploring more frivolous and sometimes even destructive matters. I have something all the time. Additionally, a struggle with this personality type is often lacking consistency, frequently changing the mind, not like the earth element. Okay, and therefore the air element has to bring some of this earth element inside them, like a dominant fire element. Fire individuals are motivated. Motivation tendencies are often described as highly driven and ambitious. They are natural initiators, eager to start new projects and build their empires. They are not easily distracted by others, opinions, or limitations, often challenging boundaries and accomplishing what others thought impossible. This drive can sometimes make them seem overly self-assured or impatient, particularly with more sensitive personalities. Fire personalities are often found in leadership roles such as founders or CEOs, or in positions where they can launch new initiatives to make a positive impact on the world. However, a common struggle with those with deep fire tendencies is managing their ego, tempering their rough edges. They may become frustrated with others when things don't go as planned and need to learn the balance between leadership and dictatorship. Okay, so these are the elements. We've spoken about them for the last, I'm not sure how long already, almost like a few months. And you see these elements in everything that we do. We spoke about how the elements are also expressed in the 4 major cities in Israel, right? We spoke about Yerushalayim being fire, we spoke about Tzfat being air, Tiberia being water, and Hebron being earth, okay? This idea is everywhere. Why are we having this conversation? Why are we talking about the elements? Why do we start this conversation? We start this conversation simply because we believe that our role here as human beings is for you to take ownership of your own narrative. Ready? We've asked this question before, and you should know the answer to this, all of you. Why did God create humanity? Why was it so important for God to give man free will? Why is free will such an important part of the story of being a Jew? Anyone know? You should all know this answer, come on. Nobody?
That we could choose, make the right decision and choose him.
Okay, good. Why is that important?
So that we recognize that the desire really comes from us and it's not something that you put on us.
And why does God want us to do that?
For the reasons I just said.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
Because we're
Yeah. Because what?
Because we're created in His image.
Okay, we're created in His image, and therefore, what is the greatest gift you can give somebody? Those are all the right answers, but there's one piece right before that. Yeah, I'll tell you what you're missing. Ready? What God wants is?
The distinction between us and animals.
Okay, yes. What is that distinction?
Creation.
Individuality is what God wants. There's nothing more profound that you can give to somebody than allowing them to be themselves. Right? As a matter of fact, whenever there's a term that the Gemara uses, it's called stolen bread. Nama de chesufa. Right? What is stolen bread? Stolen bread is the man. Man is considered. Why is the man considered stolen bread? Do you know why it's called stolen bread? Because you didn't earn it. Right? And therefore you shouldn't take pride in that. You live for 40 years, someone was feeding you, you're living off of somebody else, you're nothing but a leech. That's not what God wants from you. You know what God wants? He wants you to be you. Well, what does it mean to be you? Which part of you is you? Is it the part of you that's lazy, that's you? Or the part of you that wants to do and build crazy, amazing things, that's you? Is it the part of you that comes to the Knesset, that's you? The part that says, no, let's go out and party. Which one is you? Rabbi, they're both me, right? And I'll say, not necessarily. There's 2 parts of who you are. There is one part of you that is expressed when things are easy and calm, like right now before the storm. Let's see how you behave tomorrow night. Right? Let's see what everyone's like tomorrow night when their bandwidth is really low. Right? What midah comes out? I would argue that when when you're low on bandwidth, that's when I get to see the real part of who you are. That's what the Gemara says. You want to know who a person is? Where do you get to see him? Bekiso, Kaso, and Koso. His pocketbook, right? What's he like? Is he frugal? How does he spend his money? His drink? How does he drink? How does he or she hold their alcohol? And lastly, with his anger, right? That's how you see the nature of a human being. So I would say that your subconscious only comes out when your bandwidth is so low. That's the real you that's coming out, and that's the part that I want you to change. That's the part that I want you to develop. That's the part that Judaism so desperately wants you to take control of. And therefore, the whole system of Judaism wants one thing. It wants to teach you that you can be in control of all those things. Where do you start? Oh, it's called discipline. It's called rules, right? It's called kosher. It's called Shabbat. It's called tefillah. It's called all the things that make Judaism. Because if you live in a world that's not structured, if you live in a world where you're just doing whatever you want to do, you know what ends up happening? I've seen that story. I know how it ends. It's called the flood. It's called the Tower of Babel. It's called Sodom and Gomorrah. It's called Egypt. It's called all of the ancient civilizations that were wiped off this planet. That's what it's called. When we don't have moral clarity, and moral clarity begins with individuals that want to take ownership of their narrative. What does it mean to become the best you? And I've said this before, and I'm going to repeat it again, because you forgot. It's been so long. Okay, I'm going to repeat it again. The reason why most people are afraid to delve deeper into their own Jewish, I'll use the word, religious faith, is because they're afraid that the religion itself will cause them to lose a part of who they are. They're afraid of losing their identity. That's what's really going on.
Afraid of being eclipsed.
You're afraid of losing yourself to something else. Yes, you're being eclipsed. And what I've discovered is the exact opposite. The people that lean into their belief in a healthy way, obviously, I'm not talking about unhealthy religious fanatics, thinking people that do this carefully and let go. What they end up finding is a truer expression of their identity. You think that this is you. There's a whole other part of you that hasn't come out yet. And it hasn't come out because you haven't spent any time allowing that part of you to come out. You're holding it in a bottle because I'm comfortable where I am right now. I'm so good. Okay, I'm good, Rabbi. Right? I'm good. I love that. I'm good. No one should ever feel good. You should be happy with what you have, but you should always strive for more. I have this young guy that I've been learning with for the last few months. This is someone in my community, and parents are like, they want me to motivate this guy. This guy has zero motivation. Parents are loaded, okay? Not motivated at all. Not particularly bright. He likes to party, likes to drink, he likes to gamble. He was traveling, and I just caught up with him yesterday. I'm like, so how's Sukkot? It's amazing, Rabbi. I made $10,000. I played blackjack. My dad gave me $1,000. I gave him $1,000 back. I made $10,000 more. I made $5,000. So what do you do with the money? He's like, I really want to buy these shoes. What kind of shoes? He's like, I don't know. It costs $2,200 shoes. You want to buy? Who buys shoes? Don't tell me. There's no one in this room that's bought shoes for $2,200, right? Because that's insane. That is that's like rent. So right, okay. Don't raise your hands. Okay. Anyway, so I'm like, how could a man spend $2,200? Oh, get it on sale. He's like, no, these are special Nikes. I don't know, Air Force thingies. I don't know what they're called. I don't know what they are. It's like these. What's that? I don't know what they are. He has his eye on them. He knows where they are. This one's $2,200. Almost $1,400. I'm like, that's insane. You're nuts. And how do you take a guy like that and try to get him to recognize that he's much more than someone who's looking for material things? Because you could figure that out. I'm curious. I can't figure it out. But I believe that there's a possibility there. And the way in which you get a guy like that to grow is by empowering him to take control of his own narrative. He thinks he's a prisoner. I've already defined myself. This is what I am. But if you could show that person that he could accomplish so much more by allowing himself to express the best parts of who he is, there's still hope. Yeah.
Does he believe in God?
Yes, he does.
Like how?
He wants a girl that is Shomer Shabbat.
He wants to get married?
Oh yeah. He wants to get married right now. No. So you don't believe in Shabbat if you don't believe in God. Usually, if you believe in Shabbat, you believe in God. They go together. So listen, ready? Let me finish. Ready? I asked him, he was like, I want to get married. I'm like, definitely do not get married. Do not date. Do not look at girls. The worst possible thing for you. He's like, no, this is what I want, Rabbi. Find me this. I want a girl who's going to keep Shabbat, keep kosher. If this is you, by the way, please let me know. I know a good guy for you. Okay, ready? Girl who's shomer Shabbat, keeps kosher, and is comfortable wearing a bikini on a beach. That's what I want. So she could do that for me. That's what he said. He actually didn't say that. He said, I want her to go to the beach wearing nothing. I'm like, nothing? He's like, no, I mean like a bikini, like a little bikini. I'm like, okay. I'm like, okay, that's the...
So he doesn't really believe in God.
No, he does believe in God. No, he does. He just believes in a superficial understanding what that is. But he's there. So if that's you, please, I'll send you his resume. I'm happy to introduce you.
Is he a giver or a taker?
I don't know.
Sounds like
What's
a
that?
taker.
It's all a deal. It's not all a deal. We're not going to throw a whole community under the bus. Okay, there are people like that in every community, and this guy is not from Deal, and and that's what he's looking for right now, right? And I'm thinking like good luck, please, no serious girl who's really shomer Shabbat and really thinking about kashrut wants a guy who's thinking about what you're going to look like on a beach where other people could see you. You want to wear I don't know. Anyway, so it's not so terrible, by the way. There's nothing wrong. But the point that I'm making is that when you have individuals that lose themselves to superficial understandings of themselves, usually what ends up happening is they're so comfortable with where they're at, they can't really begin to understand that there's any room to grow anywhere else.
I don't think it's about comfort though.
Yeah.
I think it's about familiarity. People like to sit with what they're most familiar,
Yeah.
regardless.
And that's not about being comfortable?
Right, no, but like it can be comfortable even if it's not, right? Like
Yeah,
people
so that's what I'm
can be
saying.
there.
But that's my point. My point is that it comes from this place where I'm comfortable with where I'm at. It's familiar, same thing to me, okay? And I don't need to grow. I'm good, Rabbi. I'm good. I'm modern Orthodox, okay, light, and and I'm good. And I'm good, Rabbi. Guy, his father asked him to come to Shiur Wednesday night. He went. Why? Because he's a good boy. My father asked me to go. Do I like learning? No. So I want to be there? No, but Daddy's got to buy me a new car, so I got to go.
Personality?
No. Anyway, so the point that I'm making over here is that what happened is that when you are born into a society of abundance. By the way, listen, I believe this. You think that it's bad right now? Our society isn't bad right now. It's just getting started. You think that what's happening right now in politics is bad? It's going to get worse. It's just getting started. Okay? Forget about the politics. I'm talking about the issues are going to get worse. In the next 3 to 4 years, okay, we're going to figure out artificial intelligence and robotics. We're going to enter into a post-capitalistic age where it will be massive amount of abundance. Everyone will have everything you want. You won't need to get money. The whole world's going to change. Socially, it'll be, imagine what it was like going from the Industrial Revolution, okay, talking about 1800s, right, and starting the factories, how that world changed so quickly from being a farmer to desk jobs. This is going to happen 20 times faster, and it's going to have an impact on society we can't begin to imagine yet. What do you think that world's going to usher in as far as moral issues? Can't begin to imagine it. It hurts the head. But that's where we're headed. If we don't have a place where we're able to double down and clarify our moral need to grow as individuals, we're in trouble. Because when you do nothing, you're moving backwards. Standing still is moving backwards. There's only progress. There's no progress. There's only moving forward. The midot, the elements are all there to teach you about movement. They're all alive, they're moving. Air, wind, earth, even earth is moving. Water, fire, all these things are constantly moving. And if we are not moving and growing, if we are not spending time learning about who we are, clarifying about who we want to be, we're in trouble. Number 7, Rav Tzadok Cohen says, in the areas that a person struggles and repeatedly fails or falls, it is in those areas that he is destined for greatness. What does he mean? What does he mean when he says that? Number 7, what does the rabbi mean?
If something is easy, it's not worth doing.
If something is easy, it's not worth doing, yes, but he's saying even more than
How do
that.
you resist and grow?
That the places that you are struggling the most in life, it's in those areas, when you overcome those areas, that is your superpower. You think your superpower is what comes natural to you. That's not true. Your superpower is the thing that you struggle with the most, and you're able to overcome that particular challenge. Number 8, okay? He says one can walk about fixing something when, for example, there is a house that has something damaged, such as a wall, a door, or the like. But if there isn't even something damaged, if there isn't even a house, there's no need to fix anything. You first need a house, and then there can be a need to fix it. Even if a person has come down here to rectify something in particular, that does not mean his entire work starts and finishes there. Rather, each person must first develop himself, building in his soul a well-founded structure. What's he talking about?
We don't know who we are, how can we actually do anything?
Exactly. You're understanding what you are is like a house. But if you don't have a house, there's nothing to fix. The four walls of the house are the four elements. Understanding what you are, your strengths and weaknesses. If you don't have that clear, you can't build, you can't grow. The more you understand what you are, the more you can grow. Okay. Yes.
We're here for Rabbi Barbie's class. He's touched on the same thing. Actually,
He's such a
really
You spoke about this? Okay, we're gonna have words later.
No, it's a continuation.
That's a continuation? Okay, I'm sure I'm coming from a different angle. All right.
I'll let you know who did it better.
I'm sure he did it better. Anyway, so examples, number 9. Okay, dominant fire personality. The truth is you guys can do the examples on your own. I just want to go to the end. Okay? This is going to be your homework. Please read number 9 on your own. It basically goes through different personality mixtures. There's a conversation that we don't have time for, but really about how the different personalities mix with other personalities and what those personality types can do to kind of fix the distinct differences between their particular element. Okay? Okay, so number 10. Okay, increase self-awareness. This is your homework, okay? For next week, Bezrat Hashem. Your homework for this week, for the next 7 days, is number 1, pay close attention to how you operate and interact with the world. This can happen naturally when you're mindful of your actions and reactions. Additionally, explore different personality categories to get insight into yourself. If you don't have clarity, you can't articulate, you can't use words to describe what you are and what you are not, then you can't grow, you can't build. Number 2, identify your dominant element. Reflect on the 4 inner elements, fire, water, earth, and air. Within yourself, determine which element is most dominant, which are secondary, and how much manifests in your life. This awareness will help you understand your strengths, your areas, and growth. You could also, by the way, look for those elements in the people that are around you, mostly your family members. Some family members, like I have 6 children, and I know their elements all very well. Most of my kids are fire, like my wife, and I'm air. And I say that, listen, without air, you can't exist. Thank you, I appreciate that. What's that?
Fire definitely can.
Fire can? I know. I know. And that's why I said that. Anyway, but it's interesting because when you think about it in terms of the elements, again, I don't like the idea of pegging anyone and putting them into a box. But if you don't have a box to work with, you can't grow. If you don't have a vision as to where you're going, where you're ending up, you can't build. So all I'm asking you to do is for the next 7 days to think about this. And Bezrat Hashem, next week, when we continue this conversation, I'm going to show you how to internalize this in a way where you can actually build and grow that vision of yourself into something much, much more profound. Wishing you all an amazing week. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Any questions or comments? All right, good night, everybody. Bye, Totski.